I did a little bit of research. Now, it's crazy because I've seen him fight before, but I said, that name, Michael Hunter, sound familiar. And, having to watch so many fights that I do, and I think there's anybody who, covers boxing, you forget who some of these people are. But anyway, he's 12-0 with 8 KOs. Some good things to know is that he lost a very controversial fight in the 2012 Olympics to Artur Beterbiev. Now, that fight is on YouTube. I watched it. He's fought Ada Ruiz in 2007, and these are all the amateurs and things like that. Andrew Tabiti. Now, usually all these guys, whether in 175 all the way up to heavyweight, they see each other. Just like the guy, all these fighters usually see each other in the amateurs, or fight somebody who fought somebody that they fought in the pros. So anyway, Michael Hunter is taking on Usyk, who is, in my opinion, the best cruiserweight in the world, on the undercard of Lomachenko versus Sosa this weekend on HBO. He's 11-0 with 10 KOs, and the best way to describe him is, I'll say this, him and Lomachenko are cool. They're homies. They're both from the Ukraine. The best way to describe him is he's like a cruiserweight version of a Lomachenko-ish. Now, of course, he's not all lightning fast and all that, but he has a lot of activity. He does a lot of movement, and he uses a lot of angles. Put it this way. Dude's got some punch variety. Now, a lot of people have been wondering, about his... Now, he's 30 years old, so even though he's 11-0 with 10 KOs, he's gotten his title shot early in his career because he's just that good. But people are now wondering, especially with him talking of moving up to heavyweight, maybe sometime within the next 2 years, or testing the water within like the next year and a half, does he beat fighters, because he's 10-0 with 11 KOs, but does he beat fighters off of knockouts from an accumulation of punches, or because he has the power? Now, the good thing is, I would say, I think all of his fights are on YouTube. I spent a good 3 weeks or so watching them all multiple times. And a lot of those guys were, like fat cruiserweights and things like that. I mean, it's only 10 of them. I mean, it's only 11 of them. You see what I'm saying? So when he fought Tapaso Machunu and Glowacki, the Glowacki fight was the biggest fight of his career. Glowacki was, he was a former Polish champion. He had that big, somewhat fight of the year candidate fight against Marco Huck on PBC on Spike, and basically, it was somewhat of a 50-50 fight because a lot of people wasn't sure about Usyk yet, or if he was ready to step up to that championship level. And he won. He didn't get the stoppage, but he won. And for the most part, he did what he's supposed to do as far as what his fighting style is. He was outboxing Glowacki. So the Machunu fight was when he's fighting now on HBO. HBO has picked him up, and HBO is putting some love into the or showing some love to the cruiserweight division. So now this is his second fight on HBO, and just like Roman Gonzalez, they're trying to get him to a point where he's going to be headlining his own cards. Now, as far as being a pay-per-view star on HBO, I don't see it. It's just that in that division, those fights are more, they're bigger globally. So I guess before I move on, I guess what I'm trying to say is, from watching some Michael Hunter fights, he also has a lot of activity, and he also got some good angles with him. I'm talking about he's very good at spinning you. But Usyk is better, and watching Michael Hunter's fights, you'll be able to see where, especially if you watched as many Usyk fights as I have, and like I said, it's only 11 of them. You see what I'm saying? And most of them are like early stoppages. So basically, you can get through watching all his fights. I'm talking about like thoroughly analyzing and rewinding them back and forth a few times. You can get through watching all of his fights. And I would say, I think one day I did it in like 5 hours. And I was like doing other shit, just going back and forth, doing other shit, watching the fights. But basically, watching the Michael Hunter fights that are available to us, you can see, okay, all right, Usyk is better. He may not get the knockout, and Michael Hunter may put on a better performance than a lot of people are going to think he's going to put on. And if he does get knocked out or stopped, I'm going to be like, oh, shit, all right, Usyk. You see what I'm saying? Because he's young, and he's also, like, in my opinion, Usyk, because he was 30, 29, that was a big reason why he got that title shot as soon as he did. But also, he is that good, as good as Lomachenko when it comes to, depending on pound for pound, when it comes to weight divisions. So, when it comes to Michael Hunter, I think that maybe he may be a couple of fights too early for this title shot. But at the same time, you don't turn it down, especially when you feel as though you can beat him, you know, and it's on HBO. So I just want to say for the people that are going to say that, well, Michael Hunter's a bum. Nah, he's not a bum. You know, but it's hard to, but you know, at the same time, it's like, well, he's only what, 12-0? What is it, 12-0 with 8 KOs? But, you know, he's got a nice, you know, amateur background with it. You know, Duke and box. That's the best way to put it. So the closer we get to the fight, I'm going to have some more research done on him and everything like that. So therefore, when the fight's over, we can get right to the nitty-gritty of where he goes from there. Oh, before I go on, let's talk about the Cruiserweight division. Now, in my opinion, right, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about, like, who is better. Like, who is the best cruiserweight right now? If you put a top 3, you know, and I'm talking about, like, you know, you got to name the guys that are in the top 15. You got to count the guys that are in the top 15 of the cruiserweight division. But you can't say guys that people don't really know of yet. Like, well, it's this amateur coming up that's 3-0. He's better than all these. He's going to be better. No, let's keep it simple. So if you were to name the top 3 best cruiserweights right now, who would it be? I'm going to say Alexander Usyk, Murat Gassiev, and Britis. But it all depends on how you count Tony Bellew or Dennis Lebedev. You see what I'm saying? You can't really count Marco Huck anymore because he's looking washed up. You know? You got that you got a couple others out there that's coming up. What's his name? Unier Doricos? Something like that? What is it, Cuban school? But outside of that, I think that's reasonable to say. Now, Murat Gassiev is good, you know, and he has much more experience in the pros than Alexander Usyk. So it's hard to say, man. But like I said, if I was to really, like, you know, I would say Alexander Usyk, Murat Gassiev, Britis, Glowacki, Tony Bellew, Dennis Lebedev, or Tony Bellew can be number 6, truth be told. You know, he could be number 5 or 6. It all depends. I'm just putting him up there because he is WBC champion emeritus, you know. And he does have that knockout power. And he is coming off of a win over David Haye. Whether David Haye was injured or not, you got to count that, right? You got to count that. So I'm going to be real interested to see where Alexander Usyk goes from here. In fact, let's go see who his mandatory is real quick. Let's go see who his mandatory is. And was Michael... I don't think Michael Hunter was a mandatory, was he? I don't think Michael Hunter was a mandatory. But give me 1 minute. Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Oh, there we go. Let's go see who his mandatory is. Because I think he should go after a unification. Because a fight with Britis, a fight with even Lebedev, or Babette Shumanov, that's going to be, you know, that's not a big money fight. Because nowhere... Like, for example, if he was to fight Britis, that's a big money fight overseas somewhere. If he was to fight Tony Bellew, that's a big money fight over in the UK. If he was to fight, but that's not going to happen. You know, Tony Bellew is trying to keep the big money. I don't think he's going to take that risk. They're trying to keep him winning. Nah, he can't fight Glowacki again. Murat Gassiev will be a big fight over in either the Ukraine or Russia. Likely have to take place in Russia. You know, you got Dennis Lebedev, that would be a big fight. Even Marco Huck would be a big fight, you know, for Alexander Usyk. Even though Marco Huck's coming off of a, you know, off of a defeat where he just was looking sluggish and sloppy. You know, so, but something is telling me he might try to fight that, and I've seen him fight before, too, like a couple of times. Krzysztof Waldazak? Something like that. So something tells me there's going to be somebody along that line, or maybe a Ferret Urslan, depending on if HBO pick it up or not. You know, just my opinion. Let's go see who his mandatory is, though. Let's see. It just so happened Urslan is ranked number 3 by the WBO. Then you got number 1, some Noel Geaver. I got to go watch fights on this guy now. Kevin Lorena, I got to go watch fights on him. Then number 4, Maxim Vaslov, got to go watch some fights on him. But then you have the IBF champion, Murat Gassiev, like I said. My bad. You have the IBF champion, Murat Gassiev, like I said. WBA, Denis Lebedev, because that WBA title wasn't on the line, even though he lost to Murat Gassiev. So he's the WBA Super World Champion. Babet Shumanov is the WBA World. But the WBA is not going to order them two to fight because we're not talking about it. But the WBA, you need to order Denis Lebedev and Babet Shumanov to fight to get rid of that title. And then you have WBC, Tony Bellew, but he's WBC Emeritus because now Britis and Huck fought for the WBC title. So basically, when you're Emeritus champion, that means that whenever you come back down to that division, you can be #1 contender if you choose, but you don't have to be. See what I'm saying? Please subscribe. Put the links to my social media right down below in the description box. We're going to be doing a post-fight video on this. And we're going to be talking about, of course, the fight in my post-fight show. It's going to be about an hour or so long. In the future, that post-fight show is going to be a podcast. We're getting these old 1970s wood panels and everything taken down. I know I've been talking that for the last month now. But understand, when you just move, you only been there for a month, it takes some getting adjusted. Please subscribe. TstreeT Controversy, TstreeT Controversy Live.